Hi, guys. Super excited to be with you guys. Super excited for the series we've been kind of wrapping up now. Next week will be the last week of the series. And those of you that don't know, next week we're actually going to be revealing our camp speaker too. They're going to be coming out, giving the last closing message of the series. And then we're going to have a new series starting in July because the next couple of weeks in June are just going to be kind of crazy with random one-off things in camp and stuff like that. So super excited to be wrapping it up the next couple of weeks. John Ortberg. Has anybody heard the name John Ortberg before? No? Just rolling. Awesome. He's a pastor and an author. He's at Menlo Church in California. He was actually mentored by a hero of mine, Dallas Willard. Dallas Willard was a famous Christian philosopher who was a professor at USC. And if you read anything about discipleship or spiritual formation, it either was written by him or traces back to him or was somebody he mentored, including John Ortberg and a lot of the people our church likes and follows today. But he would have these conversations with John Ortberg. And there was this one conversation that was super famous that Ortberg wrote about, a couple people have written about since, where Ortberg's church was just growing at massive lengths and was becoming huge status mega church in California. And he was just saying I've hit my limit. I've kind of hit a wall. How do I get through this basically? And he actually documented this conversation and shared it. And he said to Dallas, what do I need to do to become the me I want to be? And John says that he was met with a long pause and said that with Dallas, there was always a long pause anytime he asked him a question. And then Dallas just looks at him and says, you must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. And John said he quickly wrote that down and then asked him and said, okay, and then? And then he was met with another long pause. And then Dallas says, that's it. There is nothing else. Hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. And I don't know about you guys in the room, but if you were to ask me that question, hurry would not be very high up on the list. I could think of a million different answers. I could do a sermon series on answers to that question. Jared, who was with us last week, gave us an answer to that question, but it was not hurry. We could talk about all sorts of things. And even just forgetting reasons, we could talk about just the general apathy of the church as a reason. And before we ever touched hurry, we would run out of time, basically, before we even got to that for most people. And the thing is, for some of you in the room, you might be thinking, what are you talking about? How is hurry a great spiritual barrier? For other of you in the room, you might be thinking it's a barrier for you every Wednesday night because of how fast I talk, right? Some of you guys might think I talk too fast, and that's a huge barrier because I'm in a hurry all the time. Thanks, Aurora. Setting aside all the jokes and all the commentary on that, if we just focus on the problem of a hurry for a moment, we can actually see that Dallas was right all those years ago, and that if you don't believe me with that, let me ask you guys a question. Let me just pick somebody at random. How are you? Okay. How are you, Josiah? Okay. How are you? Not that great? Okay. No, that's not the answer. How is life going right now? Do you guys have a lot of things happening? Yes. So how are you? You're in a rush? You're busy? So if you ask people generally the question, how are you? How often do you get the answer, good, just busy? How many of you have probably said that in the last couple of days? Yeah. If you don't believe me, we can start there. And let's talk about ACE exams that have been going on. How many people had ACE exams the last few weeks? How many of you guys are in finals, going into finals, have wrapped up with finals? How many of you guys are working a job? How many of you guys are playing some kind of sport? How many of you just finished a sport and are about to start another sport? Anybody not busy in the room? Just in general? That's 3 hands, and I feel like half of you guys are lying. Because if I reframe the question, how many hours did you play playing video games this week? How many hours did you spend on your phone this week? Who's got screen time? 14 hours? That was the record last time? So you guys are busy. Even if it's not with things like exams and school and sports and work, you are filling your life and you're filling it with hurry, right? And the thing with this is that being busy isn't necessarily bad, right? There's a difference between busy and hurry. Does anybody know what the difference is? That's part of it. Yeah, so by most definitions of busy, like you just have a lot of things to do, like Danny just said, Jesus was busy, right? He was constantly going from thing to thing to thing. He just kept going. But he wasn't living an overwhelmingly like full lifestyle where he could not comprehend anything, where he was not like, he was busy, but he was not in a hurry. To the point where he was actually called the 3 mile per hour God. Does anybody know why he was called that? He's moving slowly, that's close. Does anybody know what 3 miles per hour is? I heard it. Who said it? It's the speed of walking. 3 miles per hour is the average speed of walking. So this Japanese philosopher called Jesus the 3 mile per hour God because he was always walking places. And I can ask you guys a serious question. How many of you guys would say that your great vice in life is that you're murdering people? Exactly. See? Exactly. Nobody's saying that. But how many of you guys can I say who binge watched 3 seasons of Outer Banks recently? Who binge watched 3 seasons of anything recently? A great vice in your life, a great barrier to your spiritual life, a great barrier to your walk with Jesus is hurry and filling your life with things that honestly at the end of the day don't matter. Outer Banks will be there 6 years from now if you watch it very slowly. It's not going anywhere. And maybe you're thinking like, I don't waste my time on things like that. Who athletes again? Raise your hand, athletes. How many tournaments have you guys had to end the season? Justin, put your hand down. How many tournaments did you have? How many? Put a number on it. Last 2 months. 7 tournaments last 2 months? How many weeks are there in 2 months? 8. So you had 1 week where you didn't have a tournament. So the point is to say that all of this isn't necessarily bad things. Like you're not pursuing murder 24/7. You're just filling your life with other things to the point where you are constantly hurried. You can take good things like Miranda talked about a few weeks ago and make them ultimate things and make them idols in your life, right? And this life where you're making commitment after commitment is a life pursuing hurry. It's a life of hurry. If you don't believe that, I have a bunch of quotes from different backgrounds of people. We have a Swiss psychiatrist, Carl Jung. He said, hurry is not of the devil, it is the devil. Let that sink in for a second. It's not of the devil, it is the devil. Corrie ten Boom is a Dutch clockmaker and Christian writer. Said, if the devil can't make you sin, he will make you busy. Everything I'm just saying. If you're not going to kill somebody or do some random crazy sin, he'll make you busy. Ronald Rohiser is a Catholic author. He said that we are distracting ourselves into oblivion. Distracting ourselves into oblivion. C.S. Lewis is a famous author. Many of you guys have known him or seen his movies or books or things like that. He said, hurry is the death of prayer. Hurry is the death of prayer. And these are just a few observations of how hurry affects us as humans from a variety of backgrounds. These aren't all pastors or Christians. That was 4 different people with 4 different backgrounds who all came to the same conclusion, just used different language to say it. And Michael Zigarelli conducted a survey today in like modern world of common obstacles to Christian growth in the church and all those kinds of things that fall into that category. And we have a graph that will go up on the screen in a moment to show you guys what that looks like. And he says it may be the case that Christians are assimilating to a culture of busyness. So it starts right there at the top, assimilating to a culture of busyness, to hurry and overload, which then leads to God becoming more marginalized in Christians' lives. So you get busy, you overload yourself, you're in a hurry, and you put God to the margins, the death of prayer. And then it leads to a deteriorating relationship with God, which then leads to Christians becoming even more vulnerable to adopting secular assumptions about how to live, which then leads to more conformity and kind of starting this process all over again. And it's just a cycle that just keeps going and going and going until you break it. And I say all of this to simply say we have a hurry problem. All of this is to say that we have a hurry problem. And the thing with this is like a serious problem. You guys might be like checking out, don't believe me at all. But the whole heart of this talk comes down to one question. And the question is, what is the highest value in Christ's kingdom economy? Any guesses? What was it? Humility? Close. Jose? Close. You're on the right track. There's 3 things that are said together often: faith, hope, and love. Love is the highest value in the kingdom economy that Christ came to set up. And just think about that. When Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment, what did he say? Love your neighbor yourself. And then what was the other part of that? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And then he said that not only does it start there, but he also says that he will know us by our love. So like the world around us won't know us by our doctrine or how we do church, but by our love. And if you think that a step further, you could take this, all that I said, and you could say that hurry and love are incompatible. Parents in the room, Harry, I'm gonna pick on you because you're in the front row. Any of your like worst moments as a father or husband, where you just like were snippy with your wife or your kids.
When you say something you shouldn't have at the wrong time and you can't take it.
And usually it's when you're in a hurry, right? You're trying to get the kids in the car, out the door. Yeah. Most of your moments will come when you're in a hurry. I could even think of like this morning, our son was screaming when we were trying to load him in the car to go get coffee. And we were in a hurry, and I just made this snap reaction at my wife, and I was like, shouldn't have said that. But because I was in a hurry, I wasn't thinking like I normally would. Hurry and love are incompatible. When hurry is in your life, it makes it hard to respond with love. John Mark Comer compares hurry and love to oil and water. When you pour them together, they just push apart. They just don't mix, they don't work. Hurry and love are incompatible. Anybody know 1 Corinthians 13 off the top of your head? I feel like you do, Liv, and I feel like you're just afraid to say it.
I know like the first bit, so it's like love is patient, love is
Oh, stop right there. What's the very first description of love? What's the opposite of patient?
busy, hurry.
Yeah. So Paul, when he's describing love, the first thing he says is love is patient. Before any other description, love is patient. So basically you could say love is not in a hurry. And if you just think back over your last month, I'm sure you can think of moments where you were not the most loving child, sibling, classmate, coworker, teammate. And how many of those can you point to just being because you were too busy to slow down and just process that thought, respond kindly, whatever the example might be. And again, John Mark Comer argues that this is why people call Christianity following Jesus or walking with God. I told Brady I might use him as an illustration tonight, so come up here. Following Jesus implies you're staying at the pace of somebody, right? So Brady, can you follow me real quick? So see how he's kind of like walking with me? All right, Brady, can you follow me, but can you be in like a rush now? Like, you see what I'm saying? There's a difference. And we got one more example for that. So we call it walking with God. So can you just run past me while I walk? You guys see the difference, right? There's a difference between walking and following and rushing and running, right? Hurry and love are incompatible. Thank you, Brady. Appreciate it. Everybody give a hand for Brady. First day. And that Japanese philosopher I was talking about before who called Jesus a 3-mile-per-hour God, he said that the speed of love is speed over all other speeds. It's the Lord of speeds. That 3-mile-per-hour pace, that walking with people, walking with Jesus pace, is this pace over all other paces. So how do we choose space over hurry tonight? 3 practices for you tonight to help you ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your lives. First is silence and solitude. This is one of the biggest killers to prayer and spiritual life is hurry, because real boredom doesn't really exist anymore. If you guys think you were bored, imagine not having a phone. Yeah, Roland's over here showing off his flip phone in the back. Before the invention of the cell phone and before the invention of the iPhone, you would be in line at the grocery store, whatever it was, and you would just have to sit there. Just like this. If you were ordering food at Chipotle and it wasn't ready yet, you would just sit here like this. If you were doing things like that, you had the option to just sit there in silence and wait, or as many Christians did prior to the invention of the iPhone, use that as opportunities to pray. The early church would do these things where they would take times and set them aside and would just enter into silence and solitude with Jesus and pray. And then as the world advanced, we shifted away from that because there became more noise and more busy and more hurry in the world. And if you guys were here like a month or 2 ago when we talked about devotion, we said that our devotion is driven from our affections and our attention, right? as we turn our attention to something, our affection goes there too, and so goes our devotion. So as we are in line, not at Chipotle apparently, sorry, as we are in the drive-thru line at Chick-fil-A, there you go, is that better? As we were in the drive-thru line at Chick-fil-A, instead of picking up your phone and scrolling TikTok, scrolling Instagram, whatever, you can choose to just sit there and ask the Lord to speak. Ask the Lord to stir something up in your heart that you've been pushing down. Ask the Lord to move. Ask the Lord to do anything. And if you don't believe me, that all that I'm saying was like not real prior to the invention of the iPhone, 77% of young adults, so like people just a little bit older than you, said that when they have nothing to do, the first thing they do is this. They reach for their phone immediately. And if you're like, oh, that's not me, that's young adults. Every statistic like that about millennials, people 18 to 25 or older, is always worse with Gen Z, which is you guys. It's always a higher number in cases like this or a lower number on the opposite side of things. And the only time that you have to get alone with your thoughts is in the shower, right? Nope. Exactly, nope. Because of technology, you can now take your phone in the shower. So now, unless you intentionally pursue silence and solitude, unless you intentionally set aside your phones, set aside the distractions, set aside hurry in your own life, you can't get alone with your thoughts. And that is the whole heart of silence and solitude. The way of Jesus offers this as a main solution to hurry because you see it in the life of Jesus. The more busy he got, the more in demand Jesus got, the more he withdrew to what is called the eremos. The eremos is just a Greek word for the wilderness, the quiet place, the desolate place, the lonely place. It's just where Jesus got alone and withdrew. And if you notice in Matthew 3, who was here on the weekend this Sunday? Awesome. You guys heard Pastor George's message. He said this on Sunday as well. We often read Matthew 3 and the temptation narrative of Jesus like Jesus was alone and was fasting, so he was weak. So then the devil came at him. But the story more accurately reads like the Spirit led him to get to a place of strength so that when the devil came, he could handle the fight. And that's what silence and solitude is all about. So my challenge for you tonight to choose this practice is to just wake up 5 minutes earlier tomorrow morning and leave your phone on your dresser, your nightstand, wherever you have it. You look like you're in pain just because I said that, Danny. I'm sorry. Just 5 minutes. Don't touch your phone. Don't scroll. Just invite the Lord to speak to you tomorrow morning. The second practice is simplicity. Simplicity. And this one kind of directly spearheads hurry because the gospel of America is more money, more things, more anything you could think of, more busyness, because busyness makes you look more successful. And within all of that, it is like the direct opposite of the gospel of America to practice simplicity. And I'm not even saying this to talk about your things. Like the way of Jesus does call us to like manage how we control our things and how much things we have, but I'm not touching that tonight. I think the way that this issue of hurry has really got you guys is by the way you have overloaded your lives and made your life too complex to follow Jesus. If I'm just allowed to be honest, I think that is like the great barrier to your generation to following Jesus is you just schedule yourself until you cannot schedule yourself anymore. You guys say no to things because you have exam after exam, because you're in ACE classes and advanced placement classes and in college classes and in dual enrollment, and you play 2 sports in the fall and then 2 more in the spring, and then you have your travel team in the summer, and don't forget about the summer job you picked up at Rapids. Does this sound like anybody's life at all? You guys are overscheduling yourselves to the point where you cannot follow Jesus. So my challenge for you tonight with simplicity is not like sell your possessions, stop trying to make money. My challenge for you tonight is to just stop overscheduling yourselves. Your generation is known for being overwhelmed and anxious. I wonder why. Your generation's known for being overwhelmed and anxious because you're overscheduling and overcommitting yourselves to the point that that is the result, the fruit of your efforts. And then the last challenge I have for you guys tonight is simply space. And I want to give you guys an opportunity in the room right now to practice that. Kat and Miranda will come up in a moment, and they'll lead us through a song talking about this. But I want to just give you guys space, because as you practice silence and solitude, and as you practice simplicity, that is the goal of those 2 things when it comes to hurry, is to give space for God. To give space for him to speak in your life, to give him space to move, to just be there. if you simplify and you enter into silence and solitude, he'll meet you there. And the song they're about to sing, they had it already scheduled in Planning Center, which is like the app that we use for everything for music and worship and everything, to sing it before I even wrote this message. And it just like landed perfectly because the opening of the song says this: pull me in closer, close to your heart. May I be a pure reflection of all that you are. Love that is patient, love that is kind, and love that keeps no offenses or wrongs in my mind. Make me like Jesus, make me like Jesus. My heart is an open space for you to come and have your way. I'm open, I'm open. So that is kind of the heart of all of this, is just to ruthlessly eliminate hurry, to choose space over hurry, to simplify your life so that you can actually follow Jesus, because that is just the mark of this generation, is just over everything in your life. You're over scheduling, you're making things way too complex.